Well, it only took 2 days into training camp, and already the New York Jets and their fans have been going through the ringer. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. Thank you so much for joining us here today. You can catch us on YouTube for the live streams and join us with the live chat. If you want to donate to the channel or jump to the front of the line, use that super chat feature. You can also take us on the go at any time using any podcast app, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spreaker. If you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to Rich Sports Talk. And of course, we all know the news. Justin Fields was injured in practice today. And the reason I waited a little bit on this story is I wanted to get a little bit more of the full picture because there was a lot of various reports this morning about the severity of this injury. And at the end of the day, it turns out the Jets have dodged a major bullet. Of course, I feel Jets fans were going through it. They were having Vietnam flashbacks when they basically were told this morning that Justin Fields was carted off the field. Now, the big problem with some of the language is when you say carted off the field, everyone gets that image that he was on the back of the cart, couldn't walk, that's why he was on the cart was the severity of the injury. However, we found out it was because he was sat shotgun basically on the cart. He didn't get put on the back, and it was because the facility was so far away on what field. And again, if you've been to Florham Park, depending on what field they are on, that is a long walk. And especially if you have someone with a lower body injury, you're not going to force them to walk. Went through an MRI, went through x-rays. Turns out he was stepped on during practice, and the Jets officially announced on their Twitter account 2 hours ago that after medical evaluation, Justin Fields sustained a dislocated toe in his right foot. More importantly, it's not the big toe and will be day-to-day. Fields avoids serious injury and significant time missed. And look, for as bad as this morning was for the New York Jets and how bad this fan base was going through the ringer this morning, in all seriousness, this is probably the best outcome to the situation. Yes, it's not great that Justin Fields has to miss time and miss significant reps with this offense, especially in this big season. Yes, it is tough that there might be a chance he doesn't play week one. I'm guessing he is from the sounds of it. My guess is the Jets will take it light with him, especially the next couple weeks. They'll make sure he's a full go before they put him back out at practice. But overall, this was just to me, a very frustrating morning because you were just going through as a Jet fan. You're like, I cannot believe that this is happening. I cannot believe that we are going through this again. And look, for Jets fans, I have to say, is there a fan base that has endured as much hardship as this fan base, especially the last 15 years? I mean, I could go through the moments, but there's just been so many turns to just stick the knife into Jets fans' hearts. And it just is so frustrating as a Jet fan. And I understand it because there's been multiple times where you feel like the Jets are going to catch a break and it goes the exact opposite way. You get Aaron Rodgers to come here, and you get that image of him coming out of the tunnel with the American flag. It's all the excitement. This Jet fan base is thrilled, and 4 plays, tears his Achilles. The Adam Gase season where the Jets were going to get Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick until Frank Gore, who was 38 at the time, basically is able to get a first down and end the game in LA, which had no meaning to the team, and a regime where it was going to be blown up. It just seems like every time this Jet fan base can get a little bit of hope, and I feel like a lot of the Jet fans coming into this season are coming with the attitude with low expectations, but I feel like they don't want to get their hopes up because they got their hopes up the last 2 years and they were dashed. I think this Jet fan base is at the point where they're like, let's wait and see what happens. But overall, in all the grand scheme of everything's with the lower body injury, this was probably the best course of action. Again, it wasn't his big toe, which is a more significant injury. It was a dislocation, wasn't a fracture or a break. It sounds like the Jets are doing this out of abundance of caution. And look, is it frustrating because now Tyrod Taylor's going to get a majority of the snaps? But there was a scenario where, and again, I think we all played that game in our minds this morning as Jet fans, where we're looking at a scenario where, like, Tyrod Taylor is going to have to start for our team for 17 games. And knowing his injury history, he's not going to make it. So then who's going to play? Is it Adrian Martinez going to be the backup? Is it the new undrafted rookie? And that was one of the things that always kind of bothered me about the draft class this last year. And I understand that this team and this regime has a lot of holes to fill, and they did have confidence in Justin Fields. But I really do wish this team took a quarterback on day 3. For a scenario like this, just to have a third quarterback where, in case, God forbid, there is an injury to one of the two, you at least have some hope or something as a backup option. So again, for the Jets and for those of you joining us here, and again, comment your thoughts on the Justin Fields injury, what you think this means for the team. Overall, I think it's just the best case scenario. You hate injuries. You hate that he has to miss time. You hate that he's missing key reps in training camp. And that, to me, is the biggest problem with this. Is unfortunately this hurts Justin Fields' ability to get onto the practice field, get reps with key players, get reps with Rucker, get reps with Garrett Wilson, get reps with Josh Reynolds, get reps out there with some of these younger guys. But overall, I think that if you were to tell me when I first got the news this morning, and again, you got to love Jets fans, because I was instantly on the phone with all my Jets buddies. I'm like, can you believe this? Like, what is the significance? And again, I do feel like the wording on some of the early tweets coming out where he's carted off, you're thinking he's blown his Achilles, he's torn ACL, it's the season-ending injury. I was of the mindset, as the news started trickling, okay, let's hope it's only a couple weeks early in the season. But the good news is Justin Fields, they avoided a major injury. You don't have to worry about Tyrod Taylor potentially starting the whole season, which again was a scenario I think we all were playing around in our heads. And the good news is for the Jets, Justin Fields, it looks like is going to be ready for week 1. I do think that Justin Fields, they are going to slow play how they're going to use him. I feel they're going to really take their time to make sure that he is completely healthy. But again, it does stink that he is losing key reps with some of these receivers. But at the end of the day, I do think that this worked out well for the Jets, where you see a guy who, again, let's be honest, Justin Fields is going to determine how great this team is. If Justin Fields is a good quarterback, we can talk about maybe a playoff run. If Justin Fields is bad, we'll be talking about drafting a quarterback by the end of October. That's basically how it's going to go. And look, there's a lot of things I'm hopeful about this team. I think the defense will be very good and exciting. And you've seen it early in practice, the early feedback. They're going to blitz. They're going to play a lot of man. They're going to get after quarterbacks. They're not just going to rush with 4 people and hope the back 7 can get. This is going to look a little bit more like the Rex Ryan defense. You're going to see corners blitzing from different angles. You're going to see linebackers coming over the field. Early signs, it looks like James Davis is getting a lot of reps with the linebackers. They were very high on him out of Washington. It appears that Brandon Stevens has been gone off to a very good start here in camp. But then there's also some issues too with Malachi Corley, who has struggled in camp too. And he, to me, will be a fascinating guy to keep an eye on as camp goes on. Is there a chance he doesn't make the 53? We will have to check that out. But overall, I mean, my attitude has done a 360 from this morning, where when I first got those tweets, your first thoughts is, I hope this isn't a season-ending injury. And then you play the scenario, if this is, the Jets are going into the 2025 season with Tyrod Taylor as their full-time starter and then Adrian Martinez as their backup. It was not exciting. I got to the point where I'm like, okay, if this is a fracture, when it's a foot injury, maybe he misses the beginning of the season, but Fields is able to come back week 3 or 4. I can survive 2 or 3 games with Tyrod Taylor, not a problem. But now it seems like Justin Fields is going to be back for the start of the season, which is great news for this team. And really, this is the thing with the NFL. Injuries can happen to anyone at any time, and we've seen it derail rosters and seasons, especially at the quarterback position. So I feel like this is a good break for the Jets. And while it stings that Fields got injured, and I do know this will be a major storyline throughout the training camp now, at the end of the day, I think it worked out great. But again, I think a lot of Jets fans were saying the same thing. Why us again? Like, why us again? We had this with Aaron Rodgers 4 plays in. We've had it like every way that it just feels like there's always a new scenario that you can't imagine that somehow comes to fruition. Like Aaron Rodgers, you get yourself hyped up, hard knocks the whole offseason, opening night, and he goes down with the Achilles, whether it's draft position, whether it's drafting certain quarterbacks, whether it's drafting certain players. It just feels like this team and this fan base, unfortunately, cannot catch a break. And unfortunately, this is a frustrating injury. I know a lot of Jet fans are still furious about this and are upset. But at the end of the day, I do feel like the Jets finally caught somewhat of a break today with the news that Justin Fields will be day to day. And again, guys, if you're joining us, make sure to like and subscribe so you miss any of our content throughout the Jets season. We, of course, will be doing live streams after every single Jets game to break down the game and break down all the latest on the Jets. Also, if you want to check us out wherever podcasts are available, you can check us out there. We will be podcasting throughout the whole offseason, and we might have some more fun stuff for you coming up. We're expanding the channel as well. So there will be a lot of great stuff coming out through the offseason and into the regular season. But once again, the big story, Justin Fields luckily avoids a huge injury. There's no fracture. Basically, it seems like he got stepped on. But some other interesting news coming out from Jets camp. It seems AVT's doing well. There was even some rumblings where Aaron Glenn mentioned how much he likes him. So could there be an AVT contract coming? I do think that would be a good thing to lock up. The hard part, I think, with AVT is obviously the injury history, because let's be honest, there has been significant injury history throughout his career. Again, played last season, the majority of the season. But, it sounds like even though Fields was going to be out potentially, I do think Tyrod Taylor would be a decent fill-in. If this was only a situation where he had to fill in for 2 or 3 games, I still think the Jets would be fine. Tyrod Taylor, of course, has played in this league, has had success. It's clear that players love him, as he was talking about that as well. And look, Aaron Glenn knows injuries. He talked about his time with the Lions last year and how many guys went down last year, how many guys that they had to basically plug and play. And again, there's a difference between a huge quarterback and also any other player on the team. But still, it is very interesting to see how this whole thing played out. I'm glad it worked out for the best. And again, when you read the initial reports, when you got the carted off, this is why I think people need to be very careful with their wording. And I get that people probably don't think about it, but a lot of the reports, like, he's carted off the field, being carted off the field. So everyone's just imagining, like we've seen on TV 1,000 times, he's laying on the back of a golf cart on like a board or something, or sitting up with his leg outstretched and with covering. But it wasn't like, he's carted off, but he's sitting in the front seat, guys. And basically, he's on the far practice field, so they carted him off to the locker room. Because again, like Florham Park, if you haven't been there, I was fortunate. One of my friends took me to one of the training camps. I believe it was 2-3 years ago. It's a massive facility. There's multiple football fields there. And from the sounds of it, they were on the far field. A lot of reporters were saying they were using binoculars to scout what they were doing. So, of course, if a player has a lower body injury, heck, any type of injury, you're not going to make them walk hundreds of yards to the locker room when you have golf carts everywhere. They just put them on the golf cart. But just being carted off the field, everyone's like, oh, my God, torn Achilles. Oh, my God, like the worst case scenario. But the problem is, as Jet fans, we've unfortunately been through the ringer with that kind of stuff. So we were just conditioned to be like, oh, God, this is going to be horrendous. Now, hopefully the recovery goes quickly. Hopefully Fields is able to get some key reps in before the offseason. The interesting thing, too, is I was kind of curious with Fields how much he was actually going to play in the preseason. I do believe you're going to see Tyrod Taylor maybe get a series. I don't think they're going to play him a lot. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of the undrafted rookies. I remember last year, again, I know it was different kind with Rodgers coming back too, but there's a lot of Adrian Martinez. Basically, it was the camp bars throughout the whole offseason. So, that which was interesting as well. But again, guys, comment section is open. Your thoughts on the Justin Fields injuries. My biggest thing, too, that my first thought, too, and it was funny, I was actually texting my buddy today, and I had, because, again, he's a good big Jet fan like myself, my friend Mike, and I was saying, is Mike White still on the market, or did the Bills already re-sign him? Because I was trying to think of all the backups. I think we all were going through that earlier today. We're thinking, okay, who can we get as a backup? I saw some people tweeting about Kirk Cousins. I'm like, okay, Like, let's just see how bad the severity of this injury is. But this goes back to one of my critiques of the draft. And again, I know the Jets only had so many picks. I know the big purpose of this draft was filling up this roster. But again, my big gripe with this regime was especially not having a long-term answer, whether it be a draft pick that's under control or even Justin Fields. Even if you're confident Justin Fields, it's a 2-year contract. My big thought was, well, if you don't have that long-term answer, you should at least take a flyer. You should take a flyer on one of these kids on day 3. Now, again, the kid they got out of Missouri, I do think could have been maybe a 7th round pick. But overall, like there were some guys that I really liked, especially in the later rounds, round 5, that I'm like, you know what? If I'm the Jets, I maybe pick up the phone and ask about like, hey, are they available? Or can we maybe look to draft someone? Like, again, one of the guys they really scouted and throughout the early process, I'm just going back through the draft. I mean, I didn't think Jalen Milroe would get to the Jets. I think he could have been someone, again, Shadur, I don't think would have been a good fit. But Kyle McCord was someone who I was very high on, especially coming out of Syracuse. Philadelphia drafted him in the 6th round. Again, the Jets at that point didn't have any picks because they traded up to get a couple of different players. But a part of me was also looking at it too, like, Will Howard had some decent experience at Ohio State. I would have maybe taken an opportunity with him. There's just certain ones that I'm like, Cam Miller was another one from North Dakota State. I know they did a lot of work on him, smaller quarterback, but a guy that basically I thought was very athletic, would fit this scheme very well. And even like Quinn Ewers, I mean, Miami took a shot on him in round 7. I know it's a shot, but, this is someone that was a highly ranked prospect at some point. I mean, I would have taken a shot then, but again, as we know, the Jets trade up multiple picks to go up and get different pieces throughout the draft. But once again, for those of you just joining us, the news is out. Justin Fields is day to day with a toe injury, dislocated toe. Big thing is it's not the big toe on his right foot, which is the big news. Again, comment your thoughts on the Justin Fields injuries. But, I mean, early feedback from Jets practice, Brandon Stevens has been doing a very good job, which is something that I do think a lot of Jets fans will definitely be keeping an eye on. I mean, Brandon Stevens, trust me, on this channel, I know how a lot of people must have been thinking at the time. And I just was laughing, I was just laughing at just seeing how, like, okay, there's going to be a lot of Jet fans that are going to be really upset today. And I get it, even with this injury being downplayed. The team saying they're hopeful he will be ready for week 1. Again, I think that they're just doing that. I think there's a good chance he's going to play week 1, but I don't think they're going to say, oh, he'll be there week 1. And then just the off chance that there's a setback in the rehab, they don't want to be caught with their pants down. So again, I do think that this is a frustrating decision, but this, to me, of all things considered, I think this is the best case scenario to come out of this. Because again, you want Justin Fields to at least get a fair opportunity. You want to see this, this team get an opportunity to compete, especially with a young quarterback who I think I'm still very high on with Justin Fields. I do hope he gets a speedy recovery, but from the sounds of things, of all of the possibilities, this seems like the best outcome. I mean, some other notes too. I think Brandon Smith has been making a lot of plays in the early preseason. Jamal Pritchett also making some nice plays. You also have to look, like, again, like the other big thing too is I think this backfield showing a lot of speed. Andre Sisco especially. Brady Cook had a rough day. He's the undrafted quarterback. Bad pick 6 today. But, he's basically a camp arm. Like, at the most, he's going to be a backup in this league. I think you look for him to just compete for the 3rd quarterback, the emergency quarterback role, or the first one on the practice squad. Jamin Davis, has been out there with a lot of the 3 linebacker sets. I was curious who would be that 3rd linebacker out there with Quincy and Jamian Sherwood. And it's interesting too. Malachi Corley struggling, but you also wonder too with Corley, how much of it is he really like pressing? Because this is a guy that seems like he's had a setback in the offseason. He understands he didn't have a great season last year, and now it's a whole new staff. And one of the big things with the staffs this year is they drafted a receiver, an Arian Smith. And again, they've committed to him like with a 4th round pick. It was a lot higher than many of us thought it would be, but they've signed a receiver, they've drafted a receiver, they brought some undrafted one. So they owe Malachi Corley nothing. And again, as a Jet fan, you definitely do not want to see Malachi Corley just be another miss of a draft pick. But I mean, this is a make or break season, and I'm kind of wondering how they're going to use him. I'm curious to see what he does in the preseason. Do they use him in the kick return game? But I mean, this is an incredibly frustrating thing. Rich Cimini, of course, reported as well, told by a source that the injury is not significant. They don't think he will be out that long, which is, again, the best news for this Jet team. Because, again, Jet fans have been through the ringer. Jet fans don't need any more stress in their life. And, again, just this morning, you could tell just how panicked a lot of Jets fans were on Twitter. But overall, this is the best case scenario for the New York Jets. And again, if you want to comment in the live stream, make sure to do so. Give us a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest content. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any Jets questions, any Jets roster questions that you would like me to answer, make sure to comment and I will answer any questions that you might have. So again, use that chat feature on the live stream. But the good news is, for as bleak as this day started, as frustrating as this day started, as mind-bending like frustration this day has started with, it does feel like of all the outcomes, all the doomsday scenarios we played out as Jet fans, that this was the best option and that this is an injury that will not have curtailed the season as many of us were fearing earlier this morning. So the good news is Justin Fields is day-to-day, not a significant injury, which means that the Jets still have hope heading into the 2025 season. And for this fan base, take a nice relaxing night tonight. Take the night off. Treat yourself. It has been a frustrating and stressful day. No fan base in the NFL has been as stressed as New York Jets fans have, and Jets fans deserve a break. Thank you for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest content coming from Jets training camp. And, of course, as we roll into the 2025 regular season. If you missed the live stream, you can always check us out wherever podcasts are available: SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spreaker, Spotify. If you can listen to your podcast, you can listen to Rich Sports Talk. Again, make sure to join us during the live stream and get your questions in, and we will answer them here on the air. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time here on Rich Sports Talk.